Hello and welcome to Sim.PC, where right now is 21:02. Oh my days, can't I just catch a break and do something a bit earlier in the, day? Do I really have to wait until the evening to do things? Well, apparently it seems rather so. Why not just go to sleep early today, like after doing this video, and go up at like, I don't know, like 6 or 7, and then record in the morning before I got to meet all of my friends, and I will be done early in the day. Just fix all of me problems, take off the stress. But unfortunately, I'm not rational in that way. I don't think anybody is, right? Or most people aren't. So instead, I'm probably going to sit up the entire night thinking that, I actually managed to do all of these things today. I was a bit stressed, but I managed to do all of the things. That probably means that if I do exactly the same way tomorrow, I will probably manage to do them tomorrow as well. Well, yeah, that's unfortunately how I'm probably going to view it. Anyway, mates, not that important. What I do with my life is probably not any of your concern, except for the thing that I'm uploading videos that might entertain you, might give you a new perspective on life, might just be a tedious video in your video feed, and for that I'm sorry, mates. But hey, it is what it is, right? And you can't really do anything about it. But what I can do anything about is the video today. And here I have a bit of takeout. I haven't eaten since, 2 today? Maybe 2? 1? Something like that, since lunch. And I have a bit of takeout here that I would like to devour. Something that's just, laying here and getting smushier and smushier and smushier as the longer that this video take. So, yeah, today we're going to tackle kind of an easy, quote-unquote easy topic, because I thought, you know what, if I can't give it 110% today, it's not going to be the biggest deal. And that is not so that means that we're not going to talk about a society revolving area. We're not going to talk about critique against society overall. We're not going to talk about the psychology of people. Maybe we will, but we will not talk about the specifics of psychology of people. Critique to what a human being are, critique to what society is making us be, critique to what a phone is. No, we're not going to tackle any of those big themes today. Today we're just going to talk about the misconception that silence is equal awkward. And yeah, that is basically all of my notes on my phone, with some new topics. Fortunately, I didn't show that. So yeah, what is this all about? Because this could be summarized in like 2 seconds. It can be like, well, awkward isn't the same as being silent. Now, I know that many people have different perception of this, so let me just go through a few of them so that I can get into me bite. So, without further ado, mates, let's get started. So the entire misconception that silence is equal with awkward is probably coming from, the situation. You've all been there, I know you've been, I've been there, so don't you try anything funny with me, yeah? I've been in this situation a multitude of times, and that probably says a bit about my character as well, unfortunately. But I've been in that situation, I know you've been. The situation where you're going out to someone that you either kind of know, or a very good mate that you're not on the best of terms with, or you're someone that you haven't met before that you turns out you didn't have any common interest with at all. And instead of going up and talking about, things that generally interest you, for me it would be like gaming. I would be like, hey, so World of Warcraft, am I right? And they would probably be like, no. Well, economics? No. Critique of society? No. Comedy. Everybody likes a bit of comedy. No, I'm a cynic. Okay, you're on that way. Well, what do you like? And they're like, model trains. And I'm like, yeah, maybe not my biggest passion here in life. And then that creates this, this scenario, this situation, where both of us are just standing, looking at each other. No small talk can be generated because we have no common interests, even though I'm a person who generally tries to shoot off things more extreme than the other to get some form of reactions that we at least can argue. I'm not very good at the topic that I'm going to discuss today, because I think, in a sense at times, that silence is awkward, and that's just my personal view, right? But I know that it isn't always true. But this is kind of the situation where most people are getting this misconception from. So they're meeting someone which they don't have that much in common with. And technically, when you view someone who's not, saying that much, especially if you're people around you, you feel the pressure that we need to talk about something. And if we don't, we're awkward, and everybody's gonna think we're awkward. Because really, isn't awkward just a social construct? Isn't everything just a social construct? Oh my days, deep. Hashtag deep. Am I right, people? Anyway. So what we're moving into is that we have 2 people who are not really talking about anything, and that is perceived as awkward. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't, right? I think that is rather awkward. And as I said before, I found myself in that situation a plethora of times. Unfortunately, I have to admit that that has been the case. Anyway, there are other times when silence isn't the same as awkward. For instance, one of the most beautiful things you can do when you find a partner is being comfortable together when neither of you are speaking. Does that mean that in that specific situation, it is awkward if you don't speak, even if you feel very comfortable when you're not speaking? Of course, it isn't. It's not the same thing, right? I mean, if you feel like it's not awkward, then per definition, it probably shouldn't be classified as awkward. However, many people still, who's watching you, still has this social construct, this idea, this preemptive assumption, this preconception, right, that silence is equal to awkward. And you've probably been, if you've been in a relationship where you've reached this stage of, like, what, we can actually stay silent together, and you're out with your friends, you've probably all seen this friend who's standing like, it looks like he or she has a heroin addict or something, just scratching themselves everywhere, doing twisty motions, and like, yes, so can we talk about something? Because they are not a part of your, what we say, your comfortable silence. They think that silence is awkward, and that is also building on that you think that it's not awkward, so you don't perceive this as a problem. Then you just think that this other fella is weird, or even worse, this person's insecurity with silence is creating an awkward situation for the two of you who have found this silence being like not awkward. So what I'm probably trying to say with this video, as I usually don't have a conclusion in mind when I go in, except if it's something that I'm really passionate about, which this probably isn't. But what I'm thinking, right, is that silence shouldn't be awkward. It's just perceived to be uncomfortable by the many. And when that happens, stereotypes arise. Right? I mean, as I've been saying before, and it's not my original thought, I think that Jordan B. Peterson said it, maybe he quoted someone, but it was the entire idea that this construct of reality that we're living in, multiple realities and all of that good stuff, ontological and epistemological paradigms and all of that, research assumptions, and then it's positivist and interpretivist paradigms to that, or paradigms or paradigms, whatever you want to say, probably boring you to death, but the entire idea is that this construct of reality around us that is made up of just pure coincidence upon pure coincidence upon pure coincidence, or the divine faith of God or some other godly being, right? Could be the case as well. I tend to swing to the other side of the pendulum when I'm discussing that and seeing it as coincidences, but shouldn't neglect the thought that it could be true. Then, in order for your brain to make sense of this chaotic environment around you, tries to establish, try to create stereotypes so that it knows how to react in the future based on that it is anchoring its, reasoning on past experiences. And what tends to happen if two people have come to enjoy silence together, which, is totally natural and should be the overall understanding of what silence should be. It's in my opinion, right? Even though I firmly disbelieve it at times. Even though these two people might have found this, someone else has a stereotype that no, silence is bad. And they're trying their very, very best, like I do at times, to just shoot off small talk, even though it is deflected. It's like playing tennis against the drapes here, right? That kind of feeling when you're just like, I'm serving and I'm serving and I'm serving, but I ain't getting anything back. Is it because I'm too good? Do I have it on too high a level? I know, my natural instinct. I go to insult them. Why? Well, because that will give it a reaction, and then we can argue about it. Am I right? Create a bit of discussion. Not always the case, but unfortunately the case more often than I would care to admit. Anyway, mates, trying to go away from that. The preconception, as I said, still is there that silence is the same as awkward. However, there are many people, and I'm going to generalize heavily now, so just bear with me if you feel hurt and offended, because, there is a big possibility, or rather a big risk that you might do. But I would say introverts, right? I would argue to know many introverts who prefers silence, who prefers to be on their own or prefers to be in groups, but when they are in groups, they prefer to be in groups of, we don't need to exhaust that much energy to talk all of the time. What's wrong with just hanging out and just, being? Is that awkward then? If they truly perceive the optimal social collaboration, or whatever we're gonna call it, the social scenario, the hanging out with a couple of mates, the hanging out with friends at the bar, if they perceive the optimum solution for that situation to be as silent as possible, then that is probably what will make them themselves the least awkward, right? And I'm pulling everybody over aside here, and that wasn't initially my intention. Still isn't, actually. You can be an introvert and truly be enjoying other stuff as well, being very energetic and very outgoing when you are with your friends, but that you actually need your time alone in order to recharge your batteries, let's say. I totally understand that. I fully believe that to be true. However, the people that I met, and yet again, I can only refer from my own life experience and refer from context that I've been, experiencing. There are people out there who do truly believe that, well, the best thing that they can do, and the best thing that they would like to do, and the best thing they can imagine when it comes to a social get-together is that for everybody to just be silent, as silent as possible, and, small talk not necessary. We can talk about something if we really need to talk about something, but otherwise, I would rather do something else. It could be silent, it doesn't really matter. I'm focusing on my thing, you're focusing on your thing. So fine. For instance, taking me and a couple of mates in the corporate finance lab the other day, we were just sitting and completing tasks. And that usually happens. Now, I'm saying usually happens. We're usually not completing any tasks, but we're beginning in a lot of tasks. And we solve them. We solve them. It's just not in the pace that I would like us to solve them because, well, we just don't. Sometimes it's because of the answer sheet. Sometimes it's because of the equation. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, but most of the time we tend to just discuss a lot of different ideas of how we can go about solving the thing. However, today, or rather was it yesterday, the days are starting to meld together, stress and all that. Anyway, a short while ago, let's just put it in that. A short while ago, we were all sitting in the computer lab and we were all doing our individual things. And it was complete silence. Now, was that an awkward silence? No, it was a focused silence. That means that the people who are out, who are introverts and who believe that their social construct and their social scenario is the best when they are silent, and our, focused on one thing, doing one thing, we don't have to talk because we're all focused. That kind of disproves that silence is the same as awkward. And I know that when most people take up, silence is the same as awkward, they're obviously talking about, well, some form of interaction that they think should be taking place. But then I would like to take up, as an argument against that, when can you really perceive a discussion to be taking place? Now, that might be a bit abstract for you, so let me just roll it out. Just like in yesterday's video, the day before that, and probably the day before that, and probably a common consensus throughout all of my videos, is that one person's opinion should be equally as valid as another person's opinion, right? That also means that when it comes to putting the blame on something, on someone, that someone has said and something that is interpreted, that isn't necessarily bad in the eyes of the public, but is perceived bad by one person, it's just opinion against opinion, right? So that means if they're both are equally as valid, their opinions, that is, when they're going against each other, who is really the blame? Who do we really put the blame on? I would argue no one. It's up for those two individuals to resolve themselves. If they can't resolve it, well, then maybe we can give some insight, right? But that's up to them to say that they can't resolve it, and not for us to judge. Anyway, in this same situation, if I am going up to a person and that person is not interested in talking to me, and this person is not... what should we say? Let's say that you're going and waiting for the bus, because that's gonna make me look like a maniac, and this has happened before, unfortunately, as well. Did a bit of a social experiment when I was going out. Oh, and I was saying this wasn't going to be social critique, but I was going out and conducting a small social experiment, right? When I was, thinking that, can I go out and talk to people, just talk to people? Will I be looking like a maniac? And, well, spoiler alert, I kinda did. So I went out and I was talking to people on, during the bus stops, because I was riding the bus for an afternoon or something, and I jumped up at times and I sat in silence for a while. Then I talked to someone next to me and they're like, what the... You're talking to me? Mate? What a coincidence. Probably, maybe due to a highly individualistic country. I'm not saying that everybody responded like that. Like, whoa, slow down, I don't want to talk to you. Some of them were very open and very good to it. Like, I would not like to generalize, but I will do it again and say that most of the time when people are like, hell yeah, I will talk to you, perhaps not that exact expression, was older people, which I thought was kind of interesting. Anyway, matter less. Let's say that I am going up to someone at the bus stop, and they don't have any perception of that they want to have a conversation with me. But I have a perception of that I want to have a conversation with them. So my opinion is that I want to create a conversation. Their opinion is, I don't want to have a conversation, right? We've established two sides. I'm going up to them and I'm starting talking to them, trying to engage in conversation, shooting off different sorts of small talk, and I obviously didn't go to, offend them in the worst way that I thought possible, because these weren't people that I knew, right? I only do that to people that I knew, to people that are friends. Well, arguably it could be people that I knew, because after I offend them, sometimes they don't come back. Anyway, mate, matters less. So I went up to them, and that tended at times to create a bit of a silence because I was shooting off these different ideas, shooting the breeze, as you say, and they were just standing there like trying to shoot it down as quickly as possible, like literally playing tennis against the drapes. They were intentionally drawing down the drapes so that there wouldn't be any form of conversation going on. And I was just standing there like, this is awkward because I actually wanted to make a conversation out of this, and now it is silent. So I was in that moment thinking that this is awkward. However, the other person, who has had an equally as, what you would say, enlightened opinion, and equally as entitled opinion as my own to create a conversation, they had the opinion of, I'm trying to avoid a conversation with this madman, and in post-production, so to say, in retrospect, I can't really blame them. But then comes the question, if they truly perceived that a conversation was not the end goal here, and that silence was better, then how do we determine if silence is awkward or is conversation awkward on the other hand? Because what I'm probably trying to estimate and trying to conclude here, or at least it feels like now that I'm talking about it, going a bit back and forth about it, is that conversation can be equally as awkward as silence depending on who is involved, the perception of the people involved, how, why, when, and, well, where, right? All these things play a role, especially if you're a stranger at the bus stop who go up and talk to someone about, I don't know, let's say a random topic about car production and the economies of scales, for instance. And there you're standing there and be like, I really don't want to talk to you. Then what is the most awkward thing? And that also brings in a fourth wall. Wow, I'm really in my soggy takeout. Gonna take a while. Anyway, and I was thinking about as well, isn't it a bit determination to determine this fact, since both of our opinions equally valid, and no one should really get in the way of that because we're the ones resolving it, even though we can say that I technically attacked him socially, right? Wow, that sounded really bad if you take that out of context. Keep in mind, context matters. Isn't it up to the other people, and I'm not saying it is, but if you imagine the people around us would probably naturally interpret this situation. Wonder what they thought was the most awkward. Me trying to engage in conversation with the other person shooting me down, or that there would be a conversation at all. Wonder what they would think was the most awkward, because sometimes people perceive themselves as being silent when two people that they absolutely do not know talk to be awkward as well. But I'm thinking, if you truly think that that is awkward, then you would probably do something about it and join into the conversation or try to talk with anybody else, right? That is around you. If you don't think that, then the opportunity cost for you to go and interact isn't as big as your opportunity cost for, let's say, well, the awkward side, which means that you probably not think that it is awkward enough to break. However, one can also argue that you're trading one awkward position of being silent to one awkward position of being shut down in conversation. Could be true as well. Anyway, we're digressing all over the place. What I'm trying to say is that the misconception is here that silence is always considered to be awkward. I would argue no. At times, silence is exactly what you need when you feel comfortable. For some people, it's preferred. For other people, it's really not. For me, I'm one of those people who really think that talking is fun and interactive and interesting. And at times I think that, well, if we're not talking, then what are we really doing here? But other people are of a different mindset, right? And I can be swayed to either way, depending on what argument is presented here. So I'm open-minded for this situation, or for this discussion. But what I was trying to say is that conversation could be equally as awkward as silence. So sometimes silence is better. Wow, this got deep and far off, and I really thought that this was going to be a 5-minute cut and wrap. Woo! But now we're ticking at, well, 19 bloody minutes. So I'm just gonna cut it short here, because otherwise I'm going to try and record another part of this and, upload that as well, because you span out on so many ideas. Maybe that is because my blood sugar is running low and my my body is going into defense mode, being like hunting situation. Hunting. We need to be focused, need to stay sharp, you know? Just like William. That William Sharp, that big old dude. Am I right, mates? All that. Anyway, have a nice one, mates. And before you go, let me just leave you with this. Rather that you have a comfortable silence than an awkward conversation. Am I right, mates? Am I right? Not always, though, but, you know, as a general rule of thumb. Have a nice one, mates. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.